Here is the next My Team video. And this game, it actually got disconnected before halftime. So I thought, why not just let the entire game play? That way you can see offensive and defensive possessions. You can see scores, misses, defense strategies. Normally I never show you these things. I just cut right to the goods. So this is not a video that's going to happen often, but since it did disconnect, why not? So before I get started with this game, let's talk about 2K14 again. Ronnie2K on Twitter posted another tweet in relation to that first hashtag with a new code saying, break the code 35 space 3335. And it appears that this code means August 8th because 3 plus 5 is 8, and then the space 3335, that equals 14. So maybe the news regarding this hashtag is going to release this week, August 14th, which would be a Wednesday. So we'll find out this week if 2K was trolling us or if Crew is coming back into the game. Now in this game, Allen Iverson is on the floor. You see he's guarding Michael Jordan. I actually did switch the matchup. You see I have Penny Hardaway in the game. I switched the matchup, but it didn't switch right away. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it takes a few possessions, a few dead balls before that defensive rotation comes into effect. Right here, you see I try to force that layup with LeBron, and then I bounce pass it off Jay Smooth's booty. And that's another thing. This guy is playing with a team similar to mine. Well, not really, but he's got LeBron James and Jay Smooth. I think this is the first time I've seen somebody else with Jay Smooth on their team. He's not very popular in my team. So I wonder if he knows who I am. I wonder if this guy knows about my videos or if it's just a coincidence. It might just be a coincidence. But in my last My Team game, you remember that Allen Iverson didn't really get to play. I started him, but it just wasn't working out. And in some games, that's just how it is. Some guys are not going to play. Some guys are going to play. And you know by now that Allen Iverson is capable of going off. He's capable of having a very big game. I've had so many big games with him. But sometimes his weaknesses, I don't want to have to deal with because he's only 6 foot. And sometimes what I need is I need tall players because not in the last video, but in the video before that, remember the guy switched LeBron James to point guard. And that forced me to run with the tall point guard to match up as well. So I have a couple of options in those situations. I have Magic Johnson or Penny Hardaway. And in the last seed or two, you see that I'm favoring Penny Hardaway to take that tall point guard spot. And that's because defensively, he's a lot quicker than Magic Johnson. Offensively, he is as well. And then his three-pointer is better. So in the last few games, you see my boy Penny Hardaway play some amazing on-ball defense on guys like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Magic Johnson, he's a good defender as well, but he doesn't stop them the way that Penny does. It's just something about Penny in 2K13. That's why I like to have him out there defensively. And you see right now I'm running Penny Hardaway and Allen Iverson. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I can get away with that backcourt that isn't great at shooting. But in that other game when I didn't play Allen Iverson, they were running a zone. And now I'm in a zone throwing the lob to Penny after the steal. So when the other team, when they're running zone, I want to have good shooting. I want to have a nice balance. And it's not a very good balance. Look at Michael Jordan cheesing with his signature layup. You can't stop that. There was 2-3 people trying to stop that layup, and it's just, you just can't do anything about it. So there's always a balance that I like to have with players going into the paint and players shooting the three. So if people are playing man-to-man, then Allen Iverson, he's always going to be out there because he's just so deadly offensively. And then defensively, when we get a stop, we can take advantage of his speed on the fast break. That's why he's been able to score so many points, because if we get a stop, he's gone. But in the last few games, when everybody's running tall point guards and shooting guards, I don't want that weakness. I don't want a 6-foot guy trying to defend a 6'7" guy out on the perimeter because it's just not going to work out. Now, Jerry West, a lot of people are wondering why isn't Jerry West playing as much? And that's because he's turned into my little secret weapon. At the end of the game, the other team doesn't know what I'm about to do when I bring out Jerry West, because for the whole game, for almost the entire game, I'm playing a certain way. But then when I sub in Jerry West, it's like my play style totally changes. So in the fourth quarter, they have no idea what is about to hit him. And that's why I like to bring him in there late, because he's going to shock everybody. He's going to surprise everybody. And he just doesn't miss. Like I always say, he doesn't miss and he's clutch. And that's the most important thing about winning in the higher seeds is you've gotta confuse your opponent. You gotta give them something new. And Jerry West is something new. When he comes in, they have no idea how well we're about to play. So if I have him in there at the start of the game, maybe they'll get used to him. They'll figure out his tendencies. They'll figure out that if I get into that mid-range area, he's not gonna miss. But when I just throw him in there at the end of the game, they don't know that. They see me shooting threes in the zone. They don't really expect me to do that. So it works out. And that's also why in that game, in the fourth quarter, when I switched to that 1-3-1 zone, that guy was confused because the entire game I'm playing man-to-man. He got used to getting by and scoring on my man-to-man. When I gave him the zone, he had no idea what to do. And that's just another example of mixing things up throughout the game. If you keep it fresh, they can't get used to what you're doing. And if you notice in my games, when I'm going up against the 1-3-1 zone, usually in the first and second quarter, I'm not really beating the zone that well. But then once we get to the third and fourth quarter, they've been playing that zone the entire game. I switch in the right lineup. And now all of a sudden I'm so used to the zone that I'm beating it and I'm getting back in the game and I'm winning the game. So if you find yourself having trouble in these higher seeds, you've got to start switching your team up. You've got to have lineups coming in off the bench that changes your play style. You just got to mix it up and keep them guessing, because once they get used to something, it's easier to key in and stop it. You see, here in the second quarter now, I'm giving them a little 1-3-1 zone because I noticed in the entire first quarter, almost every possession, he was just turboing straight into the paint. And I wasn't able to stop it. So now I'm throwing him a little bit of a zone, and you see he doesn't know what to do. He's not changing his lineup. He's not about to make a substitution. That's something that I've noticed. When people throw a zone at me, you notice that I make changes. I start to sub in shooters. And it's actually funny because when I sub in the shooters, you would think that people would stop running the 1-3-1 zone, but they don't. They continue to run it, and I don't know why. But in the few times that I've ran a 1-3-1 zone against other people, I don't see them changing anything. I don't see them putting in different people, shooters. It's almost like they're just set in stone on what they're going to do. They're not mixing anything up. They're just going to do that, and then if it works, it works. They're just hoping and praying that they win the game. They're not actually going to make the changes they need to win the game. And it's funny because if you watch all the videos that I've uploaded of my team, what have we seen? If we've seen people play a certain way in the first quarter, they play that way throughout the entire game. Just think about that. Some people, it's the threes. In the first possession or two of the game, they're doing fading threes. They're doing the quick threes. They do that throughout the whole game. They never change their gaming style. They never change their strategy. It's the same thing from start to finish. So I guess the majority of gamers online, they're just in that mindset where they're just going to try something and just hope and pray that it gets them the win. And that's not a good strategy, because if you think about real life basketball, think about something like doing crossover moves. In order to cross people over and get by them in real life, you've got to react to what they're doing. You can't just start dribbling the ball and say, okay, I'm gonna do a behind the back move and hope that it works and I get to the rim and I can do a layup. No, you've got to dribble, juke. Then if you see him go that way, you want to go the other way. Maybe you need to go behind the back to protect the ball. You can't just be set in stone and say, all right, I'm just going to do a crossover this time and hope it works. You've got to have reactions. You got to react to what people are doing. So this gameplay is basically over. This is where the game disconnects. I don't think it's a rage quit. I mean, it's a close game. It's only the second quarter, but that's where it ends. So you got to see full possessions, offense, defense, some misses. You get to see what I was thinking, what I was doing throughout the game. And I also got to explain the strategy that I've been using so far here in the second seed. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. The next game, it doesn't get disconnected. It's a full game again, so stay tuned for that. It will be coming out soon. And keep paying attention to the lineups I'm running and the strategies I'm using in these games, because in every game I call on somebody else's number. It really just depends on what was happening in that game.